I'm Rob Licuria, senior editor at Gold Derby, here with none other than the Duffer Brothers, co-creators of the pop culture phenomenon Stranger Things. Hey guys, congratulations once again on the show's Emmy love. It got 13 Emmy nominations, including fourth consecutive drama series nomination. You guys must be thrilled.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it's great because and a lot of people worked really hard on this season. It was 3 years, and a lot of our department heads who got nominated, they've been with the show since the beginning, and I know it was nice to see a lot of them get love from the Academy.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go straight into a bit of a deep dive about it because there's so much. I could kind of keep you here hostage for 10 hours. I certainly won't do that to you. I love how season 4 revealed so many plot points that you carefully set up in earlier seasons. Like, that is always so satisfying for a viewer. Like in the season finale, when Nancy discovers her diary and we realize it's November 6, 1983. And like, of course, Upside Down's frozen in time. So stuff like that, I find really exciting. And we're seeing the seeds of what you've planted. So talk me through how satisfying it is for you guys as the creators to finally get some payoff come to fruition like that.
It's really satisfying. I mean, season 1, when Matt and I originally pitched it to Netflix, was a limited series, and it was just gonna end with them saving Will, and that was gonna be the end of the story. But Netflix early on said, hey, if this were to be successful, would you be able to continue it? And so
early on, as in the pitch,
as in
the in the pitch meeting.
Yeah, like right away. So we began to start this again. So the story still mostly remained the same that we had pitched for season 1, but we started seeding in these ideas of where the show would get. We wrote a 25-page document talking about the Upside Down and how it's created and all of this. And that document, which we sort of were doing on the side with our writers as a side project to show Netflix and explain some of this, our core mythology, that's the document that we're really starting to show the audience now. We're starting to peel back the layers of the onion, so to speak. And there are a couple more big reveals that we saved for season 5, but when we went into 4, knowing that this was going to be the penultimate, we're like, we have to give some of these big ideas away in this season. And that was almost freeing to be able to do that, because before we were almost afraid to do too much besides seeding ideas or hinting at things, because we didn't want to show our hand too early. But when 4 came around, we're like, well, that's not too early now. We're right at the end.
We have to. We better.
So it was really exciting for us and the writers to do that.
Yeah, another example is this really blew my mind because music has always played such an important role on the show. Exhibit A, Kate Bush rocketing up the charts after Volume 1 dropped. And I loved how the ultimate shield against Vecna is music, because music can reach people's minds where words can't. And we realized, of course, that Will didn't die in season 1 in the Upside Down because he was singing his favorite song the whole time. And to avoid Vecna's curse, and then ultimately it saved Max, in season 4, volume 1 for now. And so how did that idea come about, that music is so important to plotting the show's overall narrative? I think it's genius.
Yeah, we wrote season. Thanks, man. I mean, we wrote music. The Clash, Should I Stay or Should I Go, was such a huge part of Will's journey in season 1. And then, we kind of forgot about it. Music's always been a big part of the show. And as we were writing and developing 4 with our writers, we were trying to figure out, I think, what would save them from Vecna and how they would escape Vecna. And that led to the discussion of music. And then you've generated so many ideas over the years. That's the cool thing about a TV show. It's like, okay, we have this amazing cast, and then we have all these ideas, some of which made it into the show and some of which did not. Like, we knew that music had, was a kind of a way to communicate between worlds. And that led to the idea of music sort of being the key. And there's actual science behind it, in terms of it being able to reach, victims or whatever. Not people in comas and so forth. So we thought there's actually, and that's what we always like with the show, where we can marry, it's very supernatural and fantastical, but it's grounded in something real. And it just also is a nice statement about, the power of music and art that I thought was really nice. But we never, as cool as that, as excited as we were by that idea, I didn't think that, like, you know, Kate Bush would explode among 12-year-olds on TikTok.
Right.
You can't, like, that's something you can't predict.
No, you can't.
So I always thought that sequence was great. We were like super excited about it. But the Kate Bush phenomenon, that's probably my favorite thing to come out of the season. It just like made me so excited how much she popped.
Yeah, like I can't tell you how many times we've listened to that song in the car, which is great.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I tell you, no one is more excited about it though than Kate Bush. Like she's
so
ecstatic about it. She like, and it was really good because it was like, man, we really needed an artist who was willing to play along because it wasn't a traditional licensing situation. It was, we knew that we were going to be playing this song like 100 times. So this had to be someone who, so she, and you know, I mean, she did look at every scene that are
Wow.
played in, and it did hit me at a certain point. I realized, I said this to a post supervisor. I mean, we were done shooting and all of this. We're like, wait, what if we turn over a scene and Kate Bush says no? Like, we're screwed. Like, yeah. Kate Bush was all over the dialogue. I mean, we were in real trouble, but thank God Kate's, you know, she's been nothing but amazing and has, and was super collaborative and cooperative and supportive. And, you know, she more than deserves all this love that she's getting.
Yeah, I can't imagine. My God, just the thought of having Kate Bush song in my show, it's cool. And you know what? Cool. Nora Felder, I reckon, your music supervisor,
yeah, Nora's great.
is the most locked Emmy contenders for the win, I reckon. In September. I won't jinx her, but I have a feeling that she's going to win.
That's great. She deserves it.
So much great work for all of the work she's done so far.
Yeah.
And finally, with the deep dive, before we get into other stuff, it's so satisfying to get the reveal about the orderly, played beautifully by Jamie Campbell Bower, is Henry Creel, aka One. Of course, then we see how he becomes Vecna. I was kind of kicking myself and felt kind of dumb that I didn't see it coming, to be completely honest, but it was extremely satisfying. So do you hear that often, that people were shocked by that? Because once you look back, you're like, of course he's Vecna. So,
that's the trick with the good twist. Like a bad twist is you see it coming from a mile away. And a bad twist is also, there's no way I could have guessed that. I mean, that would have been impossible for me. The best twists are, how did I not see that? It was right in front of me. Like Sixth Sense is the classic example. Shyamalan tells you in the opening scene,
right?
You know, you should immediately see it. And I'm pretty gullible. It's weird. Like I've seen so many movies that I know, you know, I can see so much, but I can never guess the twist. I'm really gullible as far as twists, so I'm always shocked. So it was a hard thing to gauge, and we don't test the show. There's no test audience for the show. So that was the scariest thing for us, was landing the twist. I mean, in terms of writing and just making sure the directing, like, and Jamie's performance played into it, that we were showing enough that it didn't feel like you weren't provided enough information to guess it, but that also caught you completely by surprise. That was tricky. We probably spent the most time in the room working on figuring that out, but we didn't know if it worked or not until it aired.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm still kind of getting over it. And just speaking of Shyamalan, you know how, I mean, we all share this profound love for the movies, right? Filmmaking. And those reveals in the Shyamalan films, M. Night Shyamalan, particularly The Sixth Sense, again, and one that I didn't see coming, and also like The Village, that one really blew my mind. It makes me realize how we carry those feelings and love for movies so deeply within us. And I think it's so evident with you guys, your attention to detail and your creativity, that you have a real love for classic horror and even sci-fi. Last season alone, we were treated to some like fantastic homages to Nightmare on Elm Street and Aliens, and to name just a couple. Talk me through that, how the films of your adolescence have really helped you create.
I mean, you know, we grew up movie nerds and movie guys, and we fell in love with film at such a young age, and we just devoured it. So it really, in terms of our storytelling sensibility, it was built on 80s films and we were in 90s films. That was really where we were consuming the most. But what was also exciting to us is, you know, when we see a film like Scream in the theaters, we then go, hey, you know, I love this. This was great. But also they're talking about these other films that I haven't seen from Wes Craven or John Carpenter. Right. And then it was Matt and I, that Scream really sent us down a path of discovering these other older films. And so one thing that we always talk about with Stranger Things that we wanted to do was, yes, I believe that our characters in response to these situations would reference pop culture, whether it is Dungeons and Dragons or movies, but also how cool is that we can use the show potentially as a gateway for a younger audience to go, wait, what is this film that they're talking about? You know, believe it or not, there are kids out there who've never seen E.T. And I think that that's, you know, to us, that's exciting because everyone is building on the masters that really came before them. I mean, you know, and if you look at that, the transcript where you have Spielberg and Lucas and Kasdan breaking Raiders of the Lost Ark, they're talking about films of their childhood. And so it is part of the storytelling. This inspired me that how do we tell it our way with our voice, and in this case with a new medium, or in that case with this new special effects and our ability to do these amazing things. And so to us, that's just really exciting.
But they just had, I mean, like when we were growing up, it's like I have a lot of memories of my childhood, good memories, but I know so many of my strongest ones and my strongest emotions came from film experiences.
Me too.
And it was like profound experiences, like where I'm experiencing emotions I had never felt before. And I think that's why they make such an impact on you when you're young. That's why, even though the show was not meant for a younger audience, was not designed, I like that a younger audience has also found the show, because I know that's when I was impacted the most by media, by films. And, and I had equally, and this is my whole like thing with the Netflix and streaming spiel, is like, and why I'm happy at Netflix is like I've had completely like religious, profound experiences in the theater, and then I've had them at home on VHS. And keep in mind, we were, you know, our TVs, they were like this. I mean, to the point where when DVD first came out, because we were VHS kids, when DVD came out, I remember like we're big Michael Mann fans. So I got like the first DVD I got was like Last Mohicans, and it's 235. And I was like, this is too, I mean, it was so small. Like Daniel Day-Lewis was like this small, like running across the mountain. I was like, I don't care how crisp it is. I took it out and I put in my VHS again. So it was like, anyway, but my point is like, we had extremely, really so many amazing, kids are affected or could be affected by the show in that way. It's like the most exciting thing.
It is amazing. I like when Max is almost Vecna'd, and I look over at my children and they are in tears, like they're so wrapped up in the story. I just think, oh, carry this with you guys, because this is what I went through, you know, and it's really important.
There's some, you're more innocent, like, right? Like it's just, and you know, I can still be affected that much, but it's just more rare.
It's harder for me. The movie or show has to be better and better now for me to suspend disbelief. And even the best today, I can't suspend disbelief the same way. I mean, that's part of growing older and part of also working in the industry. No, you're like, this is so cool. I want to see behind the curtain. But once you see behind the curtain, you lose a little bit of that magic, and you have to just, it's just sort of a trade-off.
You know how the sausage is made. Right. But if it's made well enough, you forget, and you get completely consumed. And there's been so much great film and TV. So when it really works and the craft is at a high enough level, and you can still get pulled in a way that sort of approximates how you were when you were a kid, but still.
I think a lot of the appeal and what surprises me is the amazing music and design and nostalgia, the performances, the effects. It's all like top notch, but the show resonates because it's about friendship and redemption and the underdog and the bully. And that is very, very powerful for many people watching. Is that one of the main legacies perhaps you're hoping the show will leave for audiences and when discovering it in years to come?
I hope so. I mean, I hope so. I mean, we wanted to make a show that, I mean, as much as it is inspired by the movies that we grew up loving, it is also, based on our childhood growing up. And then what's interesting about TV is then you're working with a lot of other writers who have since become really close friends, and their experiences growing up, or their siblings' experiences growing up, inform the show. So like this year, for instance, like our friend and writer Curtis, like his brother was Eddie. Like, I mean, that was, the idea of, a metalhead who was also dungeon master. I was like, that's a great character, and I hadn't seen it before, and who was an outsider and who experienced that. And like Ross and we had actually a great middle school, but really difficult high school. I think most of the people who, I mean, it's not like if you find like a super well-adjusted writer, I mean, like they're probably not writing very good scripts. So like we all have had these, interesting moments where and no one's from LA, right? Like everyone flocks here, and now we all feel at home. But it was like amongst people we understand, but it was like, yeah, everyone feels that way, and you go when you're that young, where you don't feel like you don't belong, and like what you like is not what anybody else likes, and you just feel lost. So I like the idea, and so we kind of found ourselves through film, and there wasn't the internet, right? So like movies for anything were our escape, and I learned so much through that. So the fact that if people can see themselves in this and it helps them in any way, that's amazing. That's amazing. And then of course we just want to be entertaining as hell. I mean, that's the other goal is just to entertain and provide a little bit of escapism,
Yeah, and you certainly did that. Volume 2 ends with Max in a coma and the Upside Down gates are all open. We've got these amazing reunions. Eddie dies in a blaze of glory. I'm still getting over it. There was so much to unpack, right? It was a truly incredible ride. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, you're in pre-production on the 5th and final season. How the hell are you going to top that? And how's it going so far?
Well, it's early days. It's only Matt and I took most of July off, so we're only in week 2 of the writer's room. But it's been great, and we had a lot of time to work on season 5 during the hiatus because of the pandemic, when the season got momentarily shut down. But that was quite a few months where we were able to work with the writers and really brainstorm some ideas. So we're taking from that grab bag of ideas, and then we're also leaning into what we learned during just the making of 4. So it's early days, but so for the stuff we've had so far, it's pretty exciting. It started out really foggy, and it's starting to become clearer every day, and so we're excited about
it. I mean, it's scary because it's the final season, so it's like, yeah, and there are probably more examples of shows that haven't stuck the landing than there are shows that have stuck the landing. To try to it's very hard to end the show well and wrap it up. So I mean, and you have to immediately give up the idea that everyone is going to be satisfied, you know what I mean? Because that is silly. So we're just trying to stay true to what the show is and not worry so much about what everybody wants, because that's an impossible task. So I think, we're still honing it, but it's, exciting. But on the other hand, we just don't want to overthink it, because nothing was like season 1, for instance, was, it just kind of poured out of us. And I think that there's a danger in sort of overthinking and overdoing the final season because it's the final season. So it's a challenge. It's a little scary, but we're having a good time doing it.
That's good, at least, because I mean, yeah, I reckon there'd be some pressure there. You have to up the ante. You've got to wrap it all up. You got to make everybody
exactly
happy.
We have to wrap it up. Yeah.
I just think there's so much.
There are a lot of characters.
There's a lot of characters. Like, for example, Will's connection to the Upside Down, all the commentary last season about his sexuality. I can assume that it wouldn't be a stretch to assume that he would be front and center in terms of season 5. And I guess that's how I'm hoping.
Will's a big part of it. A big part of the season. And I talked about it a little bit before. It is starting to feel like this a little bit, in that it's coming a little bit full circle with season 1. So even though Will was off screen, I mean, he was in season 1. We obviously aren't going to do that. again, but like the idea of Will being central to season 5, and they're kind of our original groups getting back together. I like that. I mean, it's going to feel very different. It's sort of much more post-apocalyptic in the sense that we've had the cat's out of the bag in a lot of ways. With the gate rupture, which is a relief, because every year we've had to sort of tie everything up in a bow so nobody knows what's going on, so the town can go back to normal before something awful happens again. Now we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that because it's the final season. So that is a relief. So like even episode 1, which we kind of have roughly sketched out, it's completely different than any episode 1 we've ever had, because we don't need to do that ramp up in the same way. You're kind of in it from the start.
Yeah. Well, I went to this event where Gayton was chatting. He was with a couple of his other cast members, and he said, volume 2 is just so much bigger than volume 1, even you won't believe it. And I was like, yeah, I don't think that's even possible. He was right. So I have a feeling that we're just going to trust.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, but it's not always it's not just scale, right? I mean, I'm sure it will be scaled up to some degree, but the most important thing, I think you hit on it, was getting the characters, getting the emotions right, and wrapping that up in a satisfying way. More than than huge set pieces. None of that matters ultimately if we don't get the character stories right.
Yeah.
So but we're focusing on both, because I do love a big set piece.
Oh, I can imagine you do. Guys, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for Stranger Things. We've had so much fun with it. There's so much goodwill towards your show. We look forward to season 5. Good luck at the Emmys, and hopefully we'll see you next year at Gold Derby when we can chat about season 5.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Robert.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
man.